that's what I was planning. Yeah.
Excellent. Anytime you're ready, I think Commissioner Briscoe, are you on the line as well?
So what's that link?
On Zoom. You want it?
Yeah, just curiosity. Because I'm a kid.
Hold on. That's Zoom meeting ID. There he is. Okay, Commissioner Shepard.
Good. Okay. Are we all set? All right, everyone. This is Commissioner Michael Shepard. I'm going to close the executive session and reconvene the public meeting for Tuesday, March 17th, 2020 for Port of Bellingham Board of Commissioners. I'm going to start with roll call. Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Briscoe.
Present.
And Commissioner Shepard is virtually present as well. Before we get started, I'm going to turn this over to our Executive Director, Rob Fix, to just orientate us to how we're conducting the meeting today and some of the technology we're using.
So thank you, Commissioner Shepard. There's three ways you could have joined the meeting today. You could have dialed in on a telephone, the old-fashioned way. You could be watching this meeting on YouTube, which is a one-way interaction, or you could also be on Zoom, and the Zoom and the telephone are the two-way interactions. I'm asking if you are on Zoom to mute your audio and dial in by phone as well for the audio portion of the meeting. We had some feedback issues when we tried to use both. And so if you can mute your audio, just use the video on Zoom and then dial in the telephone number, which is 669-900-9128, followed by your Zoom meeting ID. So we'll give everyone a second to do that. If you would like to make public comment today, we're going to ask you to identify yourself first without making your comments. We will then go through and call on you individually to make your comments after we have a list of everyone who would like to make the comment. So again, please, when I ask for you to ID, we may have a couple talk at once. Let's try to go one at a time. I'll take down the names, and then we will have Commissioner I'm going to ask Commissioner Bell to do it because he's sitting near me. So Commissioner Bell will then call on people for public comment. So is there anyone who would like to make public comment today that is on Zoom or on the telephone? Doesn't sound like there's any public comment on the either Zoom or on the telephone, commissioners.
It doesn't sound that way. If anyone's trying to make their voice heard and they're on mute, we didn't hear anyone interested in public comment. We'll just give it one more call for anyone out there.
And there's no one in the room?
Doesn't sound like it. Okay. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and read the advisory meeting schedule, and then we'll get started with our consent agenda. We've got one advisory committee meeting to note. That's the Marina Advisory Committee, or the MAC, meeting Tuesday, April 14th, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the Blaine Boating Center. That's a change in location. Blaine Boating Center, 235 Marine Drive in Blaine. Both of the airport committees are currently looking at combining themselves and reorientating, and so neither have a meeting that's scheduled. Okay, well, I would just really like to thank staff for their quick work to enable virtual meetings to happen. This was really quickly spooled up. It took some quick and creative work to make this happen, to allow people a variety of safe ways to participate and still conduct the business of this organization. All right, Carrie, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda, please.
A motion to approve consent agenda items A through G.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments, Commissioner Bell?
None for me.
And Commissioner Briscoe?
None for me.
Okay, and I have none either.
Okay.
So you can go ahead, Carrie.
A motion to approve consent agenda items A through G.
Commissioner Bell
Yes.
and Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
And Commissioner Shepard is a yes as well. That passes 3-0. Okay, well, we're going to move on to our presentations. The first presentation is a Whatcom County update with County Executive Satpal Sidhu. Is that still correct?
Yes,
Okay. Hi, Satpal. Thank you for joining us.
thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
All right, the floor is yours.
Okay.
So we can put a slideshow.
I don't know how you want to start it.
This is a Mac, right?
No.
Oh, yeah, next.
There you go.
There
Okay.
we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to do that. I just wanted to preface this thing that how a month can make such a huge difference. I was at the, when I started my position in January, and I was before January. Okay, I think
Good
there is a
evening,
feedback.
everybody. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to do that. I just wanted to
We have an
We have
echo.
an egg.
Okay.
We'll turn ours off. You gotta mute. Come on. You gotta mute this. Oh. It's him.
Okay, I think we are good. It's technology. We are all learning. I think it is a good opportunity. We will all be trained after this thing. This has been around for so long, and people like me, more than 60s don't want to touch it. Now you have to.
Not trainable.
So I was just relating that when I got elected and had a transition committee, and we discussed about the needs of the community and what and how I should go about and what are the important things I should take up. And in February, I went to the Small Cities Partnership and presented my vision. And just a month later, I mean, it seems like that this is now up to next year. There's nothing going to happen this year. But anyways, I think the vision is vision. And even with this, what is going on with COVID-19 and cancellations, but we need to keep our eyes on the long-term vision. We cannot really defray that. This is a anomaly, and we'll get over that. But that's why I thought it's important that I didn't want to skip this meeting and rather come and continue. So I have, this is a little bit, something is very much on my mind throughout the 2019, that we as a community have gotten to a point that we only talk about things we don't agree on. And there are only 3 or 4 things. There are thousands of things which are common, like our jobs, our environment, housing crisis, jobs, economic development. You talk about anything, land use, wetland bank, they are not something which divides us. But our concentration always goes on things which divide us. And it is a funny thing that what we talked in our meeting was that we should have, every city should actually build a fighting room. We should put bubble wrap and get in there every month and beat up each other and come out and don't talk about that anymore. I think that's something that we need to really seriously consider, that we have more in common than what divides us. And the second part is working together. We can achieve something much bigger than we can even perceive or create by ourselves. We really have to believe in that, and it is true, and we have proven it, but somehow we have lost faith in that. The second thing is that consensus does not mean we must agree on everything. It really means that we can live with the solutions we reach together. We have a lot of things that we can find the points of agreement and see that can you live with that and let go of the things you differ on. Because otherwise, There is no place and in history that where everybody agreed on everything. And we should keep that in mind all the time to do the business of the public. The other thing, which has been my pet peeve, that since I became a little bit active into the politics part of this thing, when I was dean
Little
of
bit?
pardon me?
Little bit?
Little bit. I'm coming to that. Little bit is that when I was
You're
dean at
all in.
Bellingham Tech, I got more public person because I was more into the private arena, doing their business job and everything, and just go with the flow. What I found that the very people who are running for election and want to be the government, they bash the government. That's the way to get elected in our country is the government is bad, then you get elected. I mean, this is counterintuitive. We have bashed our county, especially in last 10 years or more. This is the worst county to do business. This is the worst county to live. This is blah, 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 blah. I haven't seen an exodus from Whatcom County in 15 years, as it is predicted every year. This is the worst place to do business. We keep seeing growth of jobs. We keep seeing new companies coming in. We keep seeing the companies growing. Yes, there are some things wrong with our county. You go to any other county you think is the best county, once you go there, land there, you will find 50 things wrong with them as well. Something it looks like greener grass on the other side. What is the best county in our Washington state, which has all these good things you think about? I think, why I'm emphasizing these? Because without these things, we cannot solve anything. We can have the best plans, we can have the best ideas, we can have all the money we want. We will not be able to do anything if we don't even believe in your own county. If we are just getting out and bashing your own home and your own family, and then you think that we can live together happily, it's not possible. So I really think that I want everybody to adopt this thing. I love Whatcom County. I'm very proud to live in Whatcom County. Okay, let's come to the policy thing now. Because, I want to emphasize all these three things I've said is the underlying carpet or environment to achieve anything else. So that's why I think I look at the vision for Whatcom County in terms of next 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not looking at it, what is tomorrow, what we can do to appease somebody now. Yes, that regular work has to go on. We have things on our hand. We have issues, the daily issues with the running of the departments, running of the county, the budgets and everything else. Yeah, that goes on. But that's the thing that everybody else does that. We have county, we have department heads, we have 860 people hired, and you guys pay for their wages. You all pay for that. And I think that you elect your leaders and council people to look in future, what is coming 20 years from now. And if they're not able to do that, and you don't expect them to do that, then you are actually shortchanging yourself. And I'm talking about public, because that's what you should expect from your leaders, that take us in a direction which will land us somewhere good in the next 20, 30 years. So Wetland Mitigation Bank, I think that our county over the last 15, 20 years has run out of land because we are a wetland county. We all know that, how much wetlands we have. And our constructions, our projects, even housing are being strained because we don't have mitigation policy, long-term mitigation policy. I think that is something we really need to work with. Housing crisis, public health, safety, and criminal justice reform, this is all combined into the behavioral health and the jail and all the services in between. I'll talk more about it. Water security. Water security is that the water. I think the next thing is it's not the gold rush, it's the water rush. What is happening with the climate change, it happens so slowly that we forget that what will happen in 10 years from now. If you just close your eyes and see what was 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, and look at Mount Baker. I have lived here more than 30 years, and I have a very clear view of Mount Baker where I live. And I remember that what was 30 years ago, it's not today. And just imagine what will be 30 years from today. So we have to really work on that. The other part is tribal relations. We have to come to terms with this. The tribes are our equal partners. There are many things we can do on our own, yes, but there are many things which we are interdependent on each other. Tribes can't accomplish, even they are sovereign nations, they can get any judgment, but that judgment ultimately has to be implemented on the ground. And when you implement something like that on the ground, you need that cooperation. And same thing with us. We want economic development. We want water for our farmers. We want forestry. We want all those things. We cannot do without the tribes. Sooner we come to terms with this, sooner we will better. So I think that this is another thing on my mind. The other thing is joint civic plaza. So when we talk about, if you look at Bellingham downtown, there is so much property county owns and city owns. I don't say that this is a city property or county property. I think it's a taxpayer's property. Only city or county have their name on it because you all paid for that. It's not the county paid for it or city paid for it. So, and I was very pleased when I discussed this thing, actually during the election year as well, with Seth Fleetwood, that wouldn't it be nice if we create a joint 25-year plan for our downtown plaza, for Civic Plaza? Like we may need building for public works or say police headquarters or many other departments. Why don't we build a combined building and make it 3 floors for the city and 3 floors for the county? Why we have to do all these soft costs and why have to take up the land and build only 2-story building and then take up another land and build another 2-story building? All the soft cost, all the maintenance, all the, the regular operations, we will save money for our people, for you, the taxpayers. So I think he received it very well, and we will work on it. So now let me just go in a little bit details on this. So wetlands, our legacy for future residents, that's how I look at the wetland mitigation. It is for our kids and grandkids, not us. We've done whatever we wanted to do. And we can look back 20 years where we were. That's our legacy. What we did not do 20 years ago, that is our legacy. And what we do now, that will be our legacy for our kids. So we need a 30 to 50-year plan for mitigation strategy. They're large projects. We have 75,000 people moving in here in next 25 years. No, it's not only people that need homes. There will be businesses. There will be more roads. There will be more civic projects, Port of Bellingham projects, city projects, Linden, Ferndale. Why everybody has to have their own wetland mitigation bank or place? Why can't we have a countywide where everybody, including the tribes, they need mitigation as well? And they are part of the mitigation process because when we create mitigation banks, we need their cooperation. So why don't we work together to do that?
Do you have a feel for where that would be?
That's what we are elected for. We have to think about. One of the things is I think that City of Bellingham has a couple of properties, I think 200 some acres, and they want to develop wetland mitigation there. And I'm looking at long term. I'm looking at that maybe we can find open lands, open spaces, lands which are 5,000, 10,000 acres.
But do you know where Do you have any idea where those would be? I mean, do you have a feel?
Yes.
Is there a proposed
No.
map of,
I don't want to say something because this is being recorded and people will say, you said this, because I have not really cleared with anybody that is this land available, but I'm talking to several people.
but you know the devil's in the detail?
Yes.
Right, so.
Oh, yes.
If we're going to do this, we need to know where those might be.
Okay.
And on whose property we might be looking to compromise, right?
Yes, yes. So if we don't have that in mind, what do we do?
No, I'm not saying
No,
that.
no,
I'm saying
no,
let's-
I know.
let's-
I'm thinking the
let's go
same way.
there, but let's be specific in
Yeah.
what properties you think might be mitigation properties.
This is not for Satpal Sidhu to find out. This is not my job to find out the property and tell, this is the property available, let's go do that.
Whose
This
job
is the
is it?
job for the council. This is job for the farmers. This is job for the tribes. This is job for all our elected people throughout the county to first to even feel the need that we need this. The first thing to get to agree that we do that. Once we agree on that we need a 30 to 50-year plan for wetland mitigation, that's the starting point.
So nobody disagrees with that, but the devil's in the detail.
Yeah,
As soon as you
and I
start
agree.
As soon
But-
as you start to propose properties,
Yeah.
that's when all hell breaks loose.
No, it won't. How did we survive for the last 30 years? We found some things, right? We found at twice, thrice as cost. So what we are doing is we are doing ad hoc basis. When there is a pressure, just like we are doing COVID-19 response on our daily lives. When there is something, we panic and we spend money and do it, then we forget about it. Then 2 weeks later, another panic comes in. But then we say, oh, this is the problem for the port.
I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking
No,
about the wetland
I'm giving you example of COVID.
I'm giving you an example of you trying to say, I'm going to put a wetland on your property if we haven't identified it.
Okay.
So I wholeheartedly agree, with all due respect,
Yes.
that we need this, correct?
Yes.
I just think that we need to be more specific in where you think that might be so that we can get ahead of the curve.
When you say we, what do we mean by
I think you, the county, the city, the port, I think all of our municipalities need to be in agreement with where that wetland mitigation might occur, because we're now talking about possibly infringing on someone's property rights because they own that property that you have designated as wetland mitigation.
I think
And
you-
that's where I think we get into trouble.
I think
If we
you've
can
taken it
identify
too far.
places that are safe.
You've taken it too far. I am just suggesting that these are the initiatives we need to take. I'm not suggesting we're going to take somebody's property. Okay, when you take
Right,
your
but
property.
I'm here to do something, right, Satpal?
Yes.
I'm here to make sure that we do something significant in the during my term.
Yes.
And it may be very short. But if we just put out big ideas without specifics, those big ideas turn into 20 years worth of big ideas, right? We have to get specific so that we can actually fix it. And we know exactly where we're talking about when we say we're going to do a wetland mitigation in this location. Otherwise, your term will end, my term will end, and this will have not been fixed.
Yes.
So specifics are important. Big ideas
I will
mean nothing to me
I'll
anymore.
give you a simple example. When President Kennedy in 1961 said, I would like to put a man on the moon in 10 years. That's all he said. And we got together. Before the end of the decade, man was on the moon. That's all we need to think. I'm not here today. I've been into like 6 weeks into my job, and I can go and point to somebody that I'm going to take your property and convert it to wetland. You want me got killed?
No, fair enough. I just,
Sorry.
fair enough.
No,
and we want to help you get
I
there.
know. I'm
We
just
wanna help
taking,
you get
I
there.
think this is a good discussion. I'm just trying to suggest to you that what this is first we have to come to an agreement that people can say, hey, Satpal, this is stupid. We don't need mitigation bank. Then maybe this is a bad idea. That's where I am with this now. Now, the thing is, where we will do wetland mitigation in our county, we cannot go to Skagit, we cannot go to Moon, we cannot go to Canada. It has to be in Whatcom County. The second part is where your question is, it will cost money. When you say we're going to take somebody's property, yes, I can buy the whole Whatcom County if I have a big enough bank. If my checking account is big, I can buy 100,000 acres today and say, this is where I'm going to do it, right? So it's a cost. It's a cost to the community. It's a cost to all of us. When it comes to that point, we will address that. That's where I know you are saying how much it will cost, where we will do it, and who will pay for it. I'm totally aware of that. And we'll come to that. Okay. So
And
the other
Paul,
thing.
this is Commissioner Shepard. I just wanted to weigh in that the idea of a wetland bank certainly has a lot of important environmental benefits as well. If you're able to pool those resources in one location, we get a much bigger benefit for the environmental benefit for cleaning the water, storage of water, and capacity. So it's got a lot of merits. And as you are looking at locations around the community, it's a great project for us to be involved with because we run into the same challenges as everyone else for needing these mitigation credits. So I look forward to where this goes.
Totally agree. The other thing is the human habitat must not compromise salmon and wildlife habitat. We find places to build homes. We can accommodate 75,000 people. We don't ask that question, where are we going to put them? We know some developer is going to come along, he's going to pay $100,000 an acre. Somebody else is going to come along, he's going to pay $200,000 an acre to build the homes. So what is the difference? It's the money, right? So, and I think that both are important. Human habitat must not be at the cost of the salmon habitat or wildlife habitat or our groundwater and other things. Okay, this is the map I'm trying to show. Now you can see all these wetlands, and you can see some spots in there that we can do that. It doesn't have to be done on ag land. It doesn't have to be done on where we can build homes. There are places, and these are things for the experts to know. And I'm not an expert on a wetland, but when you look at this map and put some people on it, say this is what we need. Like Whatcom Land Trust. That's one organization. I'm just bringing it up because they have a lot of land, which is, their purpose is to preserve that land as an open space. Their purpose is to preserve that land as a resource and an environmental place, right? I don't know, that maybe they might be one of the candidates to talk to, that how we can work with them. There may be other people. If we bring it up, there may be people who have land and say, okay, I'm willing to sell. This is the cost. Pay me over 50 years. We can probably do that. And as we get the money on mitigation, we keep paying them. So there are models for that. So wetland mitigation can be accomplished in ecological. Now this is something being done in Ferndale. It just shows you the picture that, yes, we can do that. And you see that board there, Wetland Mitigation Bank, Conservation Area, Site 4, established 2020. So what I meant is, before the end of this decade, we should have these boards all over our county. It doesn't have to be 5,000 acres in one place or one piece of land. It could be 50 acres here, 500 there, 50 there, 200 there, right? But we can have this kind of things happening all over the county. And this is, like I said, it's a 10-year project to just find these spaces and then work from there, where it is. I don't know. And I don't pretend that I already know where it is going to happen. I'm just a cheerleader. Housing crisis. We have discussed this a lot. I think this COVID-19 has put a little damper on that because everybody's attention is going, but this crisis is not gone away. It's still with us. We need workforce housing. we need low-income housing, and we need homeless housing. And possible solutions to mitigate this housing crisis, short-term, what we can do within the next 2 to 5 years, and what we can do over the next 20 years. Now, let's talk about workforce housing. This came up in the Business and Commerce Advisory Committee, has been with the council, has been in the community. Now, here is an idea how to do it. If 1,000 people or 1,000 companies in our county put $50,000 each, that will make up $50 million. This is not charity. I'm not asking people put in money, give charity. We can create a trust fund like we have an EDI fund, right? And we have a revolving loan, we give it to people, especially just to the governments. We have invested that money already, and we get less than 1%. Now it will be probably zero. Even in last 10 years, we never got more than 1%. There is $1 billion in our county, which is Port's reserves. Port has their own reserve policy or treasury. We have all the school districts. We have county. We have cities. We have PUD. We have all these people. You know, we invest money for long term because we want to be secure with our capital. Why can't we invest that money in our own county? We send money to New York, to Fidelity or Vanguard Fund or Bank of America, and we buy their fund, and what they do, you know, when we set up a bond, we go to them, they say, okay, give me 4% up front for giving you the money. It's your money. You already gave it to them. They want to give it back to you. They want a 4% cut to start with. And then they say, we'll charge you best rate, which is 4%. And that also we are paying. So we can actually, the money we invest in bonds, money we invest in secure investments means, why can't we have money invested in our own county where we can go feel and touch our collateral? That collateral, we don't even know where the collateral lies. This collateral is in our county. Why can't we say that we will buy 2-acre, 5-acre, 10-acre plots and build housing for workforce housing? And we will pay this money to buy the land and build the utilities, but we will sell the houses only for the price of the house. And we will recover this money over 50 years. It's just a model. I'm not saying I'm a financial expert, but I know enough to propose that this is very much, we're already doing it. We're doing it for others. Everybody, look at personal people. Everybody has a retirement fund. What do? You go to Fidelity. And they say, okay, we're going to put 20% of your funds in low-income secure bond fund. And we gladly accept that. But the return is going to be 0.5%. And another thing, we pay 0.25% for them to manage your money. We can do this right in our county, have a $50 million. This $50 million will actually activate $500 million of economic activity. You know who will get this benefit? All the builders, all the home people who are going to do that $500 million activity. They are the ones who are going to get that benefit. So we have to start thinking in outside the box. We are looking for grants from the federal government, grants from other. We have the best grant funding of our own money, which we already have. But we have to think in that terms. People are willing to give $10,000 retaining bonus to their employees, right? Because please don't leave. We have trained you to do this. And he's saying, my finance is not good. What about if the companies think in this way, that I got 200 employees. If I invest $2 million and have this housing done into this fund, Okay, I don't want to dwell too much. I think people get the picture, but we can talk about it another time. But that's something
I have a-
solution. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I'd like the definition of workforce housing, please.
Workforce housing is the people who make money up more than 120% of AMI to 200% of AMI. We have low-income housing, federal grants, state grants, all these, and their criteria is 60% of AMI to 120% of AMI income. This is for the people who have good jobs. They're making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, but they can't afford a house.
Where are you going to put these houses?
Pardon me?
Where are you going to
Yeah.
put these houses?
Wherever we are putting now.
Where are we putting them now?
Nowhere, right?
Right? That's my point.
Because
If you're putting them nowhere, and you're going to put this money towards a program to help them,
yeah.
and we don't have
So-
anywhere to put them, where are we proposing to put these houses?
In our county.
Where?
In our county.
Where?
You figure it out where.
No, I'm
You
the
tell the
board. You're the
developers
county.
that there is like people come to us with EDI that we want development fund, like take up any city, any county, any place, commercial. Port has projects. You guys have land.
We're building projects.
Yeah.
Where are you as the county?
Not you. Don't make it. This is not Satpal thing. This is a community
This is a
thing.
county thing. I'm just saying, Satpal, where is the county proposing
We
to
have.
put housing that would qualify for this? Because
No,
we're
no,
building
no, no,
housing.
no, sorry.
We've got 90 units going in on the waterfront from the port.
Okay.
Where are you as the county?
I think there is a little disconnect. What I'm saying is that this is not a grant. This is a fund which these people, okay.
I get it,
Let
but the
me
money
wait.
doesn't do any good until you've got a house. So where are you proposing to put those houses that this money could be utilized for?
You know, the thing is that the request was to the county that please waive the development fees. That was from the developers. To do this, that waive the fees, give us more permits, density. There were 5 or 6 different solutions, right? Where does county have money? County doesn't print
I'm
money.
not looking for money, I'm looking for land. So what county land are you
County,
proposing
no.
to
There
build
is-
housing
It's
in?
not county-owned land. It is just the commercial land. It is totally private thing. I think we need to talk off the line. I understand, but whatever we are doing now, it is just stimulating the same building of homes.
But you can generate all of this incentive and give people money back for houses, but if we don't actually create the housing
No, I'm not
opportunities,
giving back money.
it doesn't happen. I'm in full agreement with where you're talking. I love the idea that we're going to help people get workforce housing.
Not
I
people.
just want to know where you're going to build it.
Okay, what do we do if we
Are we
don't
going to
have
do
this? What do we
rezoning?
do?
Are we going to rezone and make parcels smaller? Is that the plan?
No, we can, I think that.
Seth Paul,
I'm not able to
we have
put my
trouble with
point
what you're
across.
answering us now because we're responsible for helping getting the housing done.
Yeah.
And you're not being clear.
No, I'm being very clear. I'm creating a financial incentive, not free money.
You've got to create the inventory. Where is the inventory going to be created?
By the
You can have
developers.
you can give me all the money in the world, but if I don't have a house to buy, it doesn't mean jack.
No.
You've got to give me the
No, I'm not giving this
Where's
money,
the
sorry.
inventory going to go?
Sorry. Maybe this disconnect is, this money is not what workforce, if I need a home, you are expecting, maybe that's the disconnect, maybe if I understand correctly. If I am a worker, I make $80,000 and buy a house, are you expecting that this $50 million will be for me to apply for money to go buy the house? Is that what your thought is? This fund, are you thinking in terms that this money will be incentive, I can apply to this trust fund that I have a house available, can you give me some help so that I can buy the house? Is that your thought?
No, is that your thought?
No.
I thought that's what you said.
My thought is, to build the inventory. This money would be given to the developers, to the landowners.
But where are they
or-
going to build? There is no land for them to build.
Okay.
There's no
So what is the
availability-
solution to that?
So what is it? This doesn't help that.
No. Okay.
So give me some land from the county or give us some urban growth
Okay, there
area
is the-
expansion. I don't know what that looks like. We as the port don't have it. We can't fix that. But
Okay.
we're looking to you to help us.
Yes.
Give us the, are you looking at me?
Nah.
Give us the availability of land so we can build homes for our workforce. It's not about money anymore.
This,
It's about give us inventory.
if you read back the report by the Business and Advisory Committee, Commerce Advisory Committee, there was not a single line that there is no land available. Read it again.
I was
This is
there.
something new I'm hearing.
No, I was there. You know as well as I do.
No, no, no,
Seth,
that
Paul,
is
we
separate.
don't have the ability to grow
Yes,
our housing.
yes.
We don't have it, right? Am I correct?
No, you're not correct.
Tell me where you're gonna
we
build
are
it
still, what it was, that it's too expensive to build homes. Nobody said there is no land. The only thing was said was, it is too expensive.
Commissioner, if I can, the Economic Development Department at the Port of Bellingham is currently doing a land study of what is available and what's not, and we should have that for you shortly, which will
Yes.
help describe some of these
I
things we're
remember
talking
that.
about here. But the port his Economic Development team has taken that on.
Maybe there is rezoning. That was one of the thing is, changing land use policies.
That's what I'm looking for.
But the only thing it was said was that houses are there, but they're too expensive. That was the point. The houses are there, inventory will be created. Only thing is, they are too expensive. And this is a formula to make them cheaper. That's what Cultural Land Trust is doing.
How will,
That's a
how
good
will
point,
this
Seth Paul.
fund,
Yes?
how will the fund make houses cheaper?
This fund will make the land and the development cost will not be included in the price of the house. I'm just saying is, whatever the model Cultural Land Trust has, you guys are familiar with what model Cultural Land Trust has? How they make them cheaper?
Well, I can tell you, what I think of, this is Commissioner Shepard.
Yeah.
What I think this model that you're looking for is something along the lines of what the city of Bellingham has done with the housing fund, housing trust fund.
Yes.
So a pool of money that is available for purchasing properties and then constructing them.
Yes.
I am of the opinion that there are properties throughout the city and throughout Whatcom County that are available for purchase.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is we are not seeing the private sector build workforce housing. We're seeing the private sector build housing that is typically unaffordable for someone who is working a workforce housing income spectrum. Not
Yes.
talking about subsidized housing.
Yes.
Subsidized housing is a different category, but we're still not seeing that workforce housing being put
Yeah.
into place. And so this model would allow purchase of property, construction of property, to then ensure it would have to have some other factor in there that keeps the property to be affordable into the future as a workforce model.
So,
That is true.
Commissioner
So
Shepard, Commissioner Shepard, let's talk about that just a little bit. Basically, we're saying we're going to live with the inventory we've got. We're just going to basically subsidize it with an increase in taxation or an increase in fees on our industries to help subsidize what we already have. So if let's say we bring in a new corporation that needs another 150 houses, and all we've got is a fund to help pay for the increase in cost. We have done nothing to increase the housing supply.
Well, hopefully,
And that really is the issue,
increasing-
is how do we increase the supply? How do we create more housing? Not how do we subsidize an increase in cost.
I think that we are on totally different plane. We are totally different planet between you and me. I'm not saying this is subsidized housing.
Does that surprise you?
Yeah. I'm not on the moon, I'm on the earth. That's not what I'm proposing, that we should do subsidized housing for people to buy.
So what is it?
I am saying is increase the inventory by making these houses and land available. Now, I don't want to speak out of line because I am a county executive and my word goes very long ways. I'm not a private person. I just want to admit it right in front of everybody. Because if I say some word, people are going to say, and they're going to make a video out of that and put it in front of me, because one line is all it matters. But you got to start thinking that we are not gifting money. Like this is a private fund. People put in. Why can't they do the same thing Cultural Land Trust is doing? Like what does it stop if 10 developers come together and they buy the land and they take this fund, build these utilities, infrastructure, and sell the house for the lower price?
Yeah, so I agree with your intent. I'm just saying that unless you increase the number of houses that we allow in the county, we don't get where we need to go.
That is land use policy.
Right. What is your plan to address that?
We'll come to that. That is a different issue. This is an issue I'm talking about is how to get the money for the utility. That's exactly what they were complaining. They give us $40,000 off the development cost because that was written all over. The development costs are too high.
Yeah, so to be fair, Ted Paul, I like you.
Oh,
This
I
is
know
not-
that.
this
I
is
know
not
that.
at all
You don't have to like me or not like me.
This
We
is
have
not
to
a-
like the ideas.
This is not a political debate. It is to me, it is a supply and demand debate. And it is,
How you
I want to
increase
make
the
sure
supply?
that if,
By making the housing, build more houses. How you build more houses? Make it for developers to give them the land and the utility money up front. Now they can build the houses. That's what I'm saying. If suppose this fund buys 100 acres, but let me give you an example.
Yeah.
You have $50 million. You buy 100 acres and you say, we're going to give you 100 acres to the developers, just hypothetical, right? Go build 500 homes there. That's increasing the inventory because they don't want to spend the $50 million to buy the land. And when they buy the land, what they want to do, they want to get their money back the day they sell the house. But this is a caveat that you can take the $50 million, buy the 100 acres, build the homes, but you will get your money back in 50 years. Then the guy who's ordinary guy, who you do not give them any incentive or subsidy, he comes and buys a house which was $400,000, now it is $300,000. And she goes and buys themselves. That's how you increase the inventory of the housing.
so because you and I are on different planets,
Yes.
we will meet next week.
Yes.
Over a cup of coffee.
Over a cup of
And
coffee.
you will try to explain this to my
Cup of tea.
addled brain.
Cup of tea. I'll do that.
You got it.
Okay.
So
I think
I have a
that-
comment, Stat Paul.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
No, sir. Just Bobby.
Yes.
Two things. Don't worry about being chastised for what you say. Been
Oh,
there,
no,
done that.
no. Oh, I need to worry about. I've been through that.
Say what you feel, so the people know where you're at. That's
Yes,
very
I
important.
am. I'm not.
Number two.
Yes.
Number two. I haven't heard anything in this conversation about where you're going to get the water, where you're going to get the power, and where you're going to put the sewer that's going to come from all this new developing you want to do for low-cost workforce housing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody better start thinking about how they're
Yes.
going to drink, how they're going to keep the heat on, and how it's going to affect things around here. And I don't hear any of that being talked about.
That's your.
I don't really think we need to get that far in the weeds. I think
Yeah.
Stat Paul is here to bring us a high-level
Yes.
orientation to where he's trying to direct the county. He's been clearly asked from members of the business community and the rest of the community at large to address a really complex issue of providing more housing for a broad spectrum of income levels. And I think he's doing exactly that with the proposal. We need to see a lot more details on how that proposal is going to be fleshed out. And it would be great if you came to us with an ask about how we could participate and utilize some of our skills, which are not managing housing projects, but maybe helping purchase and acquire land. We've all got to bring the skills that we have and be able to see this project get fleshed out a little bit more. But I think ultimately, we've asked you to think creatively. The county has asked you to think creatively about addressing a complex problem. And I'm pleased to see that you've already taken a stab at that.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you very much for clarifying. Okay. Organize a housing summit. This is where, Ken, this comes in, is that policymakers, all these people, implementers, for-profit, non-profit, housing advocates, get them into one room, and then what can we do? Explore the solutions. Like Mr. Briscoe said, I am just throwing ideas at everybody. Somebody has to connect those dots. I have a picture in my mind, right? But my picture may not be the picture which will end up on the ground. That I totally, this is where what government can do. Government can use land policy revision. That's what you were asking for. Yes. Where to find? Yes, it is there. Infrastructure investment. Infrastructure is where the sewer, the road, the power, the water, right? That's where the governments can invest money. Subsidies and development fees we were talking about, right? It should become another way. Public-private collaboration, investments by public-private partnership. I totally believe in that the government can only incentivize, government cannot be the main player. We can stimulate investment. That's where the infrastructure money comes in, that we can stimulate that. That's why this $50 million fund, which is totally private, and county may actually pitch in that, because county has the ability to do that, because the land we are buying, we're not giving it away. We own the title to land. So if public gives money and we own the land, the public has the same collateral as if we put money in New York. We are not, this is not grant money I'm talking about. So that's where county over time can get that money back. That's where public-private and non-profit affordable housing model. Now, we can take I have met with the Cultion people, and I have asked them, take that model, which is a non-profit model, right? And now we are talking about people who have the AMI, which is 200% of poverty level. Now we can talk about that, make it a for-profit model, because those people can afford to pay a little more, but still subsidized housing. It means lower priced housing. But this subsidized word has different connotations in people's mind. What is a subsidized housing? It's a totally different. So anyways, I think I talked myself out of enough on this $50 million fund. Okay, let's talk about this, public health, safety, criminal justice, drug and mental health rehabilitation, bail reform, sentencing, vocational technical education. These are all the things that we all know about and talk about. What is in progress right now is the county has invested $10 million into the 32-bed facility, which will open this July at the Division Street. But that is a crisis stabilization center, which is 1 week or less type of service. But what we need is, what do we do with people after 1 week? We need a facility which is 1 week to 3 or 6 months, so that you can actually provide that service. So when we talked to this contractor, or this concept started 3 years ago, how much time do we have?
All night.
Okay, That's good. I got all night too. Okay, so
Don't mind if I start snoring if it's all night.
mute yourself. Okay.
Am I under the, am I correct in assuming that the largest facility we can build is 32 beds? That there is
Yes.
some state,
It's a federal. The thing is, when you qualify people for Medicare and Medicaid funds,
yeah.
they allow you 16 beds. And we have been able to go around the rule a little bit, and we made two 16-bed facilities. So when you enter, there will be a 16 beds on left side and 16 beds on right side.
But the only time you can spend there is a week.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I mean, this is the constraints we work under. But
Why is that one
okay, that's off the
ignorance?
Off the line.
Why
I know.
Why only a week, right?
I know.
Nuts.
I know. Okay, so the needs assessment project that we commissioned was with the mind that we need to look at behavioral health and mental health services as a priority than brick and mortar. All we talked in 2015 and 17, since I've been involved, or even before, was always build a jail, build a jail, build a jail. But I think that before we build a jail, and I think lesson is learned, the public resoundingly rejected those measures because they said, we don't want incarceration, we want rehabilitation. And I think that is a message which is right for our community, for anybody. So what we are working on this thing is that talk about behavioral health, mental health, drugs put into one basket before it happens. Means, the best investment we can make as a society in kids when they're less than 12 years old. But that money will bring you results after 20 years. We don't have patience to spend $10,000 and wait for 20 years for return. We have a patience to spend $70,000 per bed in a jail. We are doing that. And we gladly pay our taxes for that. Because when somebody talks about investment in our kids, that should be their responsibility. That's not government's responsibility. But when the person is 16, 19, 22 years old, he comes in jail, we all spend money on that. That's our model right now. So what we were thinking about, or at least thought process, is that we should invest this money which public gives, if they decide to give, is on these services taking beyond 1 week to 3 to 6 months. Have that part of this continuum resources. Then there will be some behavioral health services inside the facility, and some will be outside the facility. Because when you say alternates to incarceration, so what do? You don't arrest people, right? That's not alternate to incarceration. You need to give them a service. It costs money. When you say this guy doesn't belong in jail for 1, 2, 3 reasons, then how are you going to make those reasons to give them what the person needs? It's going to take money. Just saying don't arrest people is not the solution. So that's where we need to invest money. And the last thing is that the current jail is not a viable option. It has deteriorated to the extent that I'm an engineer. I have worked a lot of years on buildings and large buildings. That building cannot be fixed. It is clunker. And we do need to go build a new building. Actually, the people who work there, they are having a 10-year sentence. And the other people come in for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, they leave. Those guys are there for 10 years, 15 years. They are life sentence. And we must do something about that. So that's what this is. But we are suspending, as of yesterday, I made a decision to postpone we were thinking that we can complete this study by end of June, and the council will make a decision in July to put it on the ballot for 2020 November election. But I think that there's no clear pathway right now with what is going on. So I already made a decision yesterday that let's postpone to 2021 November. But we are suspending this for a couple of months. We're going to continue this thing after May, and by next May, we should have this study done and then put in front of public and do this thing by August next year. Councilmen can make a decision they want to put it on the ballot or not. But that's my intention, that continue with this study and do that. So this is one of the modern jail. You can see that it doesn't have to look like the drab we have. It can be a humane facility. And this is the public engagement process where all these people will be part of this discussion. The stakeholders, county staff, the jail staff, and the deputies in the corrections, and then draft an engagement plan, and then all the incarceration prevention reduction task force and all other people will be engaged. This is a picture of a facility in San Mateo. This is 800-bed facility, but this was just to show that it doesn't have to look like jail like the Everett built, and 9-story building with those slit type windows, and you drive by and say, oh, that's a jail. I think that we can do better than that. This is another thing that they did in that jail. They created a cafeteria with the local culinary program. We have a Bellingham Technical College. We can do something very similar, and could become a great training and good food for everybody. Okay, let's come to water. So we don't have a water deficit. We have a...
Can I ask a question on your last thing? I didn't realize my mute was on. I was trying to get a question. And Sat Paul.
Yes, sir.
I've heard through 2 elections.
Yes.
I've heard how the jail is in very poor shape. It's this, it's that.
Yes, sir.
Why, if it's this bad, not sir, come on now.
Mm-hmm.
If it's this bad, and I'm not saying it's not bad,
Mm-hmm.
why has it not been, has it been condemned? Why does it not? Because if it's condemned, it has to be replaced. Why has it not been condemned?
I can condemn it tomorrow. What do I do? What do I do?
Well, what we do, if the building is condemned, it has to be replaced.
Yes.
So if it has to be replaced, and the people of the county are going to have to replace it. If it's not condemned, half the people don't believe it's in that bad a shape. Maybe condemnation needs to come out and be talked about.
I don't think we have a political will in our county to take such an action. Personally, I could do that. But I don't think that this is a step our county needs, our citizens need, or our process will work with this kind of thing. But I see your point is very valid, that how come we have been living with this.
If it's that bad, if it's as bad as everybody has said for 5 years, why has the county not condemned the jail and taken it to the public? Look, this building is condemned. This is why. This is the shape it's in. It needs to be replaced. You need to replace it.
There are proponents in our community who think there's nothing wrong with this jail. There are proponents in our community who looking for perfect. For them, good is not good enough. They want perfect. And perfect is enemy of good.
What are they smoking?
Pardon me?
What are they smoking?
I don't know. We have it legal now.
Clearly, right? Well, so
I wasn't trying to sidetrack you, but my point is if a personal, or not personal, but if a company has a building and there's complaints,
Yes.
and the county or the state goes in and it's not to standards, to safety standards, then that building is condemned and nobody blinks an eye.
And they
It's
shut us
condemned. You
down.
got to tear it down. You got to replace it. But now we come to the county building, and it's in this such tough shape. But all of a sudden, we can't do the same thing. I'm a
Yes.
little bit baffled by that.
We do not have enough money in the bank to condemn and go build the building. We still have go back to the public. And I think the previous executive did try it twice with the same idea in mind that this is a terrible building. We need to tear it down and build a new one. And you know the results, you know the arguments. Yeah, I don't need to repeat that. And I'm not saying I have the best plan, but I'm trying to do it in a different way, listening to what community said, that no, less incarceration, more services. And I think that's the approach we are taking. But just leaving it status quo or leaving the building it is, we may end up spending $40 million of the taxpayers' money to do patches on the current building, and it'll still be clunker. I cringe every time I voted for last 3 years on the council, voted on $2 million here, $1 million here to fix the jail. We are spending $4 million right now to fix the doors on some of the cells because the latches were not working, electronics wasn't working, and they were danger traps. So there are many things wrong with this jail. The ventilation, fire protection, smoke inhalation in case of fire. And with no money, you can retrofit that. So somehow, as a community, we all have to get on that page and see that there is a need for services and a building. And that's what my try is. I was hoping to do it this year, but now it's 2021. In a way, it gives us better time, more time to dwell on, more time to work through the details.
And I'm not trying to extend this, so I want to talk to you about this maybe offline.
Yeah.
But I don't understand how a 32-bed facility where people are only, first of all, they're the mentally ill, they're the schizophrenics, they're the paranoid schizophrenics. How does a week help? A week doesn't help. A week diagnosis.
Yeah.
These are people who need more intensive treatment than what they're getting in a week.
Yeah.
If we take them in for a week and let them go, we're doing nothing.
Yes.
And so I really, really want to understand how
Yeah.
we can spend $10 million on a facility
Oh,
that
no,
only
no,
puts people in a place for
10
a week.
$10 million is a drop in the bucket. I'll tell
Right.
you how. Because now we take them to a $70,000 a year motel, right? If you don't have that facility, the alternate is take them to the jail. It's like ER. When you don't have your health insurance, what do? You go to the hospital. I don't have money, I'm sick. Treat me. They treat you, send you out, you turn around. 2 days later, you show up in ER again.
So the 10 days or the week that they get to spend in that $10 million facility is just basically to say, here's what you've been diagnosed with. We're going to move you here.
No. You look at it from a different
I
perspective.
think
What is the alternate? You take them into the jail and then let them go. This is a much better option. One is it cost very less,
I agree. But it's just
and
a week.
it is a better, at least 1 week, you do treat them. So what this is a middle step. That's why what I was describing, we need the next step. And next step is 0 to 6 months. And that's where we need money to be able to do that. There is no, since 1980s when they eliminated mental institutions, nobody has put a dime into this.
Well, and quite frankly, some of them need lifetime care, not just
Yes.
6 months.
Well, the thing is we should not let it happen to start with. Do we want to invest money into that and wait for 20 years?
This is an offline discussion, so thank
Sorry.
you.
I get very emotional about it because this is totally asinine the way we are spending the money. It's like healthcare. We are spending the money, but we can't agree on how to do that. Okay, let's come to tribal relations. Like I described before. Yes, sir.
I thought we were at water.
See?
Well, when I interrupted, you were just starting to speak to the water resources, that Paul.
Oh, that's where. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Okay, water, water, water. Yes. Thank you, Bobby, for bringing me back online. Okay, we don't have a water deficit, we have a trust deficit. It really doesn't mean literally that, yes, there is a limited water, but I think the biggest deficit is we don't trust each other. And that's a proof we have for 25, 30 years. At least that much I know. It could be go more longer. And first we have to get over that. It is essential that all stakeholders sit together and start talking. Fear cannot drive us to a better future. Courage can. So I had just very preliminary discussion with the chair of the LUMI. I went to the council meeting at Nooksack Tribe. I had discussion with their council and the chair. My point is, if I can bring him on the table and have him discussion going, I think that's a very big step. Now, there have been talk about adjudication. LUMI Nation has sent a letter to the ecology, and Nooksack has sent a letter to ecology. They would like Waira 1 to be under adjudication. There are two Wairas in front of Department of Ecology. They are Whatcom County and Spokane area. So they have to pick one, and they have to decide by September of this year. And they need to report to legislature which area they want to pick to start adjudication. Now, the history of adjudication is it can take 10 years, it can take 30 years. And we can spend millions and millions of dollars on lawyers, and they will be the only rich people. And whatever the result we get, no will be happy. Right? And I give the example that at the end of the day, we have to sit on the table and decide it. Now, that's what happened to the Hatfield and McCoys. After a few generations killing each other's brothers and sisters, they finally sat on the table and settled it. They didn't have lawyers at that time. I think, yes. No, I think that we should seriously consider this, that ultimately we have to sit across the table to do the settlement. Like I said before, consensus doesn't mean we agree on everything. Consensus means we can come up with a solution we can live with. And that's where we need to go with this. There is no one party says that they are the only ones who could be the winners and others will be losers. To me, the way I look at it is we can all be the losers. So that is, to me, if I can just start this discussion, I think it's a big step. It is getting people, even the adjudication goes side by side, we can still have conversations for settlement. That's the only thing I can think of. I think that if you can create a framework in 4 years, that will be a big step. Now, this framework did exist in 2015. Jeremy Freeman, he was a LUMI tribal member and worked in the Natural Resources Department. He was able to bring a white paper and people were talking about it. And then he passed away because of illness. I have dug up those documents and I'm sharing with all the related parties, that at least we have a platform to start discussion. I don't have a dog in fight as a county executive because county has no dog in this fight. Because we don't own water rights, PUD does, City of Bellingham does, tribes do, farmers do, forestry do, everybody, right? Which actually puts me in a better position to be there because I cannot be perceived as that county is working in their own best interest. Our best interest is actually if all these people can work together. So I see that as an opportunity.
So, Satpal, Michael,
Yes, sir.
Michael here, just to clarify, your position is that instead of going through the ecology-mediated adjudication process, which can take up to 10, 30 years, you're proposing that we try and handle this in-house with the existing stakeholders.
That will be the best solution, but I think the second best solution is even if ecology decides, we should take that as an opportunity. It's like a carrot and stick thing. You know, this will incentivize the rest of the parties that either they're going to spend millions of dollars on the lawyers or they're going to be motivated to sit across the table and talk. So you can take it whichever way. The best solution is that we say, okay, we want a settlement. Do it on our own. The second best thing is let the adjudication process proceed with its legal settings and everything, and let the community stakeholders continue their settlement discussions, because the way adjudication works is if the community can come up with a settlement, they can give it to Department of Ecology, and Ecology can give it to the courts, and that becomes the adjudication. That's another ideal position to do that. But whichever route we take, I think that ultimate thing is going to be we need to talk to each other.
Satpal, I have a question on
Yes, sir.
this. Do you say the county doesn't have a dog in the fight, and so to speak, that may be true. Do you see the workforce housing and the housing plan we spoke to previous
Yes.
as causing issues with this happening when I do believe tribal folks are looking at the growth thing going on in the county and they're worried about the water in the river?
Yeah.
How are you going to mitigate that?
I don't know. Maybe desalination plants. Maybe we will have cheap power. We will have desalination plants and water will never be our problem. I don't know that. The way technology
I was just wondering if you see a bumping of heads, so to speak, over that when you try to put this group together to sit down and figure it out without going through the government process.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's where the city of Bellingham has rights to almost 1 million population. And PUD has a lot of rights as well. And how do we share? Yes?
You said 1 million pop. Can you back up and clarify that?
1 million population. 1 million population in Bellingham. They have enough rights to provide them water.
I see. Okay.
And for that matter, PUD has a little bit higher than them. So just to put it in perspective. So I think that's why I say this is a give and take. Everybody has to sit on table and do that. Because when in 1937 or earlier, whenever this water was divvied up, nobody ever thought that water will be a problem in America, ever. So they just divvied up. PUD, yes, how much water? That's okay. Put so many CFS or whatever that is, and they did that. City, yes, because they're going to be mills. There were mills here at that time. They needed all the water, and that's how it got divvied up. So anyways, that is you're right, sir. That is they are one of the stakeholders in this issue, is the housing and human habitat. Let's put it this way. Human habitat, that includes the industry and people living. Okay, let's come to tribal relations. I think we need to develop and flourish a collaborative and long-lasting framework between Whatcom County government and its people and the Lummi Nation government and its people. I did not write for Nooksack, but it is implied them as well, to work together for a healthy and prosperous future in this region. First thing, I am starting that hopefully this September, we are starting that we will have an annual summit between the Whatcom County government and tribal governments. We will reserve one day, and we will have the councils from both tribes and the Whatcom County, maybe as city as well, I mean city of Bellingham.
And the port?
Yes. Please don't send me out of this room. Yes, you will be there. No, I mean is we got to start somewhere. It can grow from there. Initially, I was thinking if we can just start with Whatcom County and Lummi Nation as a start, and then it grow from there. Because I believe that the healing and reconciliation has not happened with the tribes in our county. We may call it touchy-feely thing, but I can tell you it's not touchy-feely thing. It's real. I think the recognition is very important. It's very basic for whole community to recognize that and make a sincere effort to let the tribes know that they are valued. That is actually the starting point of any further discussions. And I see that. I have gotten that feel when I have able to engage with them. And I think that in my 4 years, I would really want to make sincere effort to close this gap of at least recognition and valuing both the governments and recognizing whatever their status they have and the treaty. I think that is a good starting point for us to move forward. And I will make those efforts sincerely, and I would like to take along the rest of the governments and people and the community at large that we are able to do that. I talked about Joint Civic Plaza. It is that I said that land is owned by the taxpayers, and we can do substantial savings with joint multi-story buildings. And the government investment will spur private investment. I can tell you that if in downtown, both city and county invest over next 25 years, if they invest $100 million, which is very much possible, the needs are in next 25 years, it will spur maybe 5 to 10 times more investment. I can envision that the Prospect Street and maybe North Commercial have a promenade going to the waterfront. We go to Europe, sit on those cobblestone streets and have coffee. We can have that in Bellingham. We just have to have that vision, because this is very premier property and there could be a lot of redevelopment all along. It's not only the waterfront, it's going to take the whole government plaza all the way to the waterfront. I think that if we are dare enough to build a plan like that for 25 years, it will happen. So I have that vision, and I think that this is very much possible. Nothing grows without community outreach and public engagement. And this is my second effort to do public engagement. I did with small cities. I'm here. And I think I can take a break for next few months because of this COVID-19. But I may be rejected. I don't have that fear at all in my mind, People may say, oh, he's just talking pie in the sky. I have no inhibition about that. I'm going to keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep pushing this because I personally believe we have to start thinking in terms of 10, 20 years, 30 years, not what is happening tomorrow, what can get me votes, how can I get reelected, how I can influence my neighbors, or how I can look good. I know I'm good. I don't need to be more gooder than that. So I don't need extra help on that. But I think that it is important. That's the only reason I got in this game. Here it is. I need your help. I cannot do this on my own. I need your help. I need your cooperation. I need your understanding. I need to have a meaningful dialogue with you. I like you to be pragmatic and think outside the box. I like you to be nonpartisan. I like you to be compassionate about your community. More than anything else, we all must love our whole Whatcom County. Smith Road is not a division of North County and South County. We should really get rid of that notion. Smith Road is good. We don't want to get rid of Smith Road. But I think that we should totally get rid of this notion. And this is not going to happen until we all sincerely talk about it, that we are not a North County and a South County. We are one county, and all the problems of North County and South County are totally our problems. And we should be proud that we live in Whatcom County. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Paul.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And I would say that
We've asked a lot of questions. I'll open it up for
Of
some more
course.
questions.
Yes.
So
Go
the-
ahead, Ken.
the plant that you had in that little hand thing is probably the wrong plant for facilitating discussion. Yeah, I would say it's legal now, so we could probably put a different one in there.
Oh, this is not marijuana.
No, I didn't say that.
Looks like a basil to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basil's not going to get us there. So first and foremost, just because we disagree
Yep.
and have policy differences doesn't mean we're being partisan. And I've personally had 2 discussions with you recently where you've had called me a partisan because I had a disagreement with you. I hope that you understand it's not partisan because we disagree, and that partisanship is not, it seems to be foremost on your mind. And I hope to God you understand that because we have a policy disagreement or because we have a different way of looking at life, it's not a partisan issue. That we really are all on the same page. We want to get to the same place, and that we're all on the same team, but it's not partisanship, for God's sake.
Okay.
It is just a simple disagreement in the way we look at life.
Can I address that?
Please.
Disagreement is good, but this disagreement is not leading us to consensus. That's where, to me, you can say I disagree. If we are not able to reach consensus, to me, it's clear partisanship. That it's my way. Let me give you an example. If there is a problem and we want to do a solution, if our argument is, I'm right, you are wrong, this theory will never work, because if I want it my way, then where do you go? If you want your way, where I go? I think when I say partisanship, maybe this word has a different connotation in my mind, and I take it on mine, because I call people partisan when they cannot reach consensus and they walk away. There is nothing in our problems. We talked about jobs, we talk about our industry, we talk about this the worst county to live in, there's the worst county to do business in. These are, to me, never reach consensus ideas.
And I would just say that if we can't reach agreement and you label me as partisan because I don't agree with you, you're being just as partisan on your side.
Okay.
So at some level, partisanship means we have two different approaches at the way we look at life, the way we're going to address problems, or the way we see the way out of those problems. I may think your problem is not going to work.
We lost our audio. Can you guys hear me?
No,
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can
We
hear
did
you.
that on purpose, Michael.
Can
Can you not
me?
hear us, Michael?
Oh, yeah. Now you're back.
And you may think that I'm just batshit crazy, right? I'm okay with that.
We all
But
are.
I just want to make sure that you understand that because we don't agree doesn't mean we're being partisan. And and quite frankly, we've had a couple of instances where you've claimed partisanship where it's just been, my approach is different from yours. My worldview is different from yours.
Yep.
We can sit at the same table
Sure.
and have this discussion, and it's not partisan. It is, I have a valid disagreement with the way that solution is being approached. And if we can talk through those in a rational manner, I think we'll get a long ways. But to claim that it's partisan is disingenuous. It's a way to dismiss my idea as being not valid because for some reason it comes from a different political perspective. Whereas my idea may be very valid in achieving a different outcome in a different way. And that's how we approach this and not, so when I saw the word partisanship on there, I reacted.
Oh, yeah, I
Because
know.
it's not partisan. I have a different worldview maybe than you. I have a different way to approach things than you. And it doesn't come from a partisan place. And I just hope that as we sit down with you during this time period,
Yep.
that we're looking at solutions from an idea standpoint and not labeling. I think our society has gotten onto a place where partisanship has become overwhelming. And even simple disagreements can't be talked through because they're labeled partisan. So my hope is that we can sit down, you and I can have coffee, and I can say, look, I think this idea is nuts, and you could look at me and say, I think you're nuts, and we don't dislike each other, and it doesn't come from a Republican, Democrat, independent place. It comes from the heart. And so my hope is that, Paul, going forward, that we can work together on all of these things without that term being imposed on the discussion.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
But this is what, if I came to this country from outside 40 years ago. My observation is it's not the same America which was 40 years ago.
I agree.
So what is that?
Agreed.
We agree to not find a solution. We agree to go through all the pain, but push my point. It's both sides. I'm not saying to one side. When I say partisan and consensus, I take in a very different way. When I came to America, America used to work fine. There were partisanships, there were Democrats and Republicans, but at the end of the day, they would say, yes, I think we can work with this. Today, we cannot. We just look at the Jersey. You know, people think that you drive in a Subaru and the guy drives in a pickup truck. We always put labels on them. We have gone that far.
So that's my hope. I'm more than happy
Your
to
hope
sit
is
down
my
through all
hope.
this. Right?
But this is not between you and me. We are two tiny specks of this whole discussion. It is not about you or me. I'll give you another example. When I got elected, and it wasn't even the certified results, guess who I called first? No. Phillips 66. Because they had put $170,000. I was given so many things to my head. Oh, they are against this. Who is against this? My canoe, my everything. You know, the next day, I forgot everything. The first people I called, and I met for coffee for over an hour with Jolie and Tim Johnson. Who were the second people I called? BP. You are way down the road. Sorry. Because I didn't want them to feel that this guy's got elected county executive, what's going to happen? Then I called you. I asked you, requested you that please come on my transition committee because I knew that the values you have, the experience you have, you can actually add positively to my campaign thing, my transition. If I had anything like this, oh, he's a Republican, I should just ignore them or omit them. No. I am not a perfect person. I have my own flaws and I wear them on my sleeve. I don't hide my flaws. And I'm not afraid to admit my flaws. Right? I take criticism very, very happily. You will never see me sad. I have never been sad. My wife is different. She would read one Facebook post and go crazy. I said, this is just a game. Right? So I just
Okay, well,
want to assure
I'd
you.
like to break in here and
Yes, please.
give my position before we carry on too much. So, my position, Sat Paul, so you know where I stand
Yes.
politically here.
Yes.
Okay, we're charged with the economic viability of this county as commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Jobs are one of the first and foremost things for us after taking care of the environment and what have you. So when I stood in the very place you're standing there now, the first time I was sworn into office, I didn't swear an oath to the Democratic Party.
Yes.
I didn't swear an oath to the Republican Party.
Yes.
And I didn't swear an oath to the Independent Party.
Yes.
I swore an oath to the people of Whatcom County that I would do a job for them.
Yes.
Just so you know where where I lie with this. I
Thank
work
you.
for the people. I don't work for the party.
Thank you.
So please, when we have conversations, please understand that. I don't work for the party.
Yes.
I don't work for the politicians. I work for the people.
That's
So
the only
so now
oath.
you know.
Yeah. That's the only oath or allegiance I have is to the community.
So one of the concerns I have as a port commissioner, because it falls under what we're charged to make sure we take care of, is jobs in this county.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very concerned with the attack on Cherry Point by certain groups. And I would hope that the Whatcom County Executive seat,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the Whatcom County Council,
Mm-hmm.
have a very clear vision on what to do, and that it's not politically driven and not special interest group driven. Because what you spoke to is exactly right. I was born and raised in this county, and I'm 63 years old, so I've been here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
No, you
And
were
40 years ago, you're exactly right. This country is not what it is today. And this country is what it is today because politicians are more worried about their pocketbook and pleasing their party to get back in office than they are doing what the people need to have done for them. And I am highly tired of it. And I don't care who doesn't like that opinion. That is my opinion. It needs to change. You, sir, can help, as well as my fellow commissioners. We can make a difference, and we can do things right. And that's what I expect of my Whatcom County Executive and the County Council. So please, stand true, stand tall, and don't waver.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments for Executive Chapel?
Well,
Okay, well, thank you very much for
thank you.
coming.
Thank
and I
you
know
for
we will be-
everybody to allow me this opportunity. And, I just want to let you know that I'm on the camera and I'm in a public setting. And a lot of people would not dare say things I have said today because it's not politics that I come here with this PowerPoint to impress somebody, say, look how good I am. That's not my point. And I'm not really afraid that they can take this and take it into whatever way they want to spin it. To me, that's petty. very petty. And I am above that. Hopefully, time will tell. But I really have my allegiance to the community. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
for all your work on the response to the virus outbreak as well. We were on a call earlier today, and I know it's consuming lots of time from you and from everyone else.
That's where I'm going.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Yeah, I
thank
imagine.
you. Thank you.
Okay, we will take a break.
Yeah, suggest a 10-minute break. We'll be back here at about 10:02.
And
Okay.
Is it past 5:30? Commissioner Shepard, would you like to ask for public comment right now?
Sure. If there's any public comment, please let yourself be known, and then we will call on you to provide your comment. Going once, going twice, no public comment heard. We will break until for 10 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, are we ready to start back up?
I believe so. Commissioner Briscoe, are you on the line? I bet he's muted.
You might be muted.
Commissioner
If you're
Briscoe.
telling us funny jokes, we can't hear him.
Maybe he didn't dial back in yet.
Oh.
Well, and the rumor around Bellingham is that all the booze prices are going to have the same thing as the toilet paper because everyone's going to hit the grocery stores now since they can't hit the bars. But that doesn't make sense because the same distributors supply to the grocery stores that supply to the bars. So it seems like they should be just shifting their supply.
All right, we're all back. Our next presentation is on the Whatcom Waterway Phase 2 and ASB update. Brian Gowron is up to present.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brian Gowron, Director of Environmental and Planning Services. I was having a relatively brief project update for you on the Whatcom Waterway Phase 2 environmental cleanup. So this is a project that we've given a number of updates on over the past couple of years. Gotten some direction from the Commission on certain items, which we'll go through here in the presentation. But then additionally, as you might recall recently at the moorage model discussions, also the discussion about the use of the ASB as a potential disposal facility for rebuilding of the Squalicum Harbor also came up. So, I wanted to make sure that we got this presentation to the Commission, address any questions that you might have before we went really much further down the road with engineering and design or going external to stakeholder groups, the Department of Ecology, and those folks. So I wanted to make sure we got Commission direction or confirmation that we're going the right way here. One thing I do want to just clarify just from the beginning here, originally we had anticipated this was going to be a kind of a paneled presentation with myself, our project engineer, Brian Keenan, here at the port, as well as two consultants from our consulting team, our environmental consultants from Anchor, as well as the structural engineers from WSP Engineering. But given the state of where we're at today, we just said, I'm going to go ahead and give the presentation. If you do have some technical questions or things that would be better answered by an engineer, I'd be happy to take those and then get back to you. We were going to have them potentially zoom in as well, but just given the technology glitches, I just wanted to kind of be as seamless as possible in the presentation, and then we'll get back to you with any questions if you have anything. So a preemptive apology if I can't address everything that you come up with here. So just what I was going to go over here today was just a little bit of background and context, a lot of this stuff you've seen before, work that we've completed to date, but then really jump into the evaluation that we requested our consulting team do to validate kind of some of the staff recommendations from a while ago to look at modifying the proposed cleanup approach. And they did a fair amount of work on that, did some updated site and land use information they built into that. We'll go over their design team recommendations and then show you a few examples of what this could look like just to give you some scale and scope as we move forward. Then a summary of their findings, and then in the anticipation that we're going to kind of really lean into this now and start some external work as well as the engineering and design. I'm just going to have a couple slides on our planned stakeholder outreach plan, given that this is going to have multiple components that I think that the community will be interested in, not just from the cleanup, but also from the land use, programming of how we use and expand the marine trades in this area. So just a few slides on to let you know that we're really thinking about this as more than your typical kind of just capital project. It has a lot of components to it. So just for summary here, the Whatcom Waterway site, as you might recall, that's not just the waterway, the inner waterway when you drive over Rotor. It's actually from the Matka site, the cleanup site. It's about a 700-acre site that encompasses much of Bellingham Bay with contaminated and impacted sediments from former operations of the Georgia Pacific Mill, primarily. But when we talk about the cleanup, we really focus primarily on the inner part here, shown in yellow, mostly because the bay is constantly getting fresh, clean deposition from the Nooksack sediments that are coming in, depositing clean sediments, and actually the area in blue there is undergoing what we call monitored natural recovery, where the contamination is getting buried, with every time that there's a storm event, there's more and more sediment that accumulates, and we monitor that over time to document that that's actually happening. And we have multiple years of that, and it's showing that's really performing really well.
And just out of curiosity, what are the contaminants that are being contained underneath there?
It's primarily mercury and phenolic compounds, which are kind of wood byproducts.
So they're basically stable. They're going to be underground.
That's right.
You don't expect anything to come bubbling up.
Nope. No. Yeah. They're
No bubbles.
Nope. The mercury and the contaminants are bound to the sediment, and then they're being buried. And then the benthic community that lives in that upper center, 12 centimeters, we monitor that and do surface sampling and show that that's continuing to accumulate.
And are they different from the area in green?
Yeah, so that's why the area in the green, the contaminants are the same, but the physical environment's a little different. So the reason we focus our active remediation in this, the inner waterway and in the closer to the near shore, is that there's a higher energy environment that stirs up sediment, doesn't allow that to settle and accumulate. There's operational components with tugs and vessels coming and going and prop wash. There's different wave actions in those areas, as well as that's closer to the source of where we had most of the contamination when it was discharged originally.
So I can understand how the Nooksack might have deposits coming in from where it enters into that stream.
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact the areas further south?
Well, there's a fair amount. I mean, there's a lot of sediment that comes out of the Nooksack. I mean, and then it has a more depositional environment over by that tide flats, because so you have clearly more deposition happening there. But even in our marina, after a storm, it looks like chocolate milk, right? So there's a lot of sediment.
It all gets stirred up.
It all gets stirred up, and there's a circular pattern of circulation throughout the bay, and that's all gone into the study of this when we did the RIFS work. So that's the area that we're going to focus most. Oh, sorry, Commissioner.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
How much accumulation are we talking about? Are we talking about over, in 10 years? Are we talking about centimeters, or are we talking about something in a larger amount of sediment that's getting deposited?
It varies. Like I said, kind of depending on where you're at. But in the majority of the bay, it is on the order of centimeters a year. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I can definitely get it to you. We did do a sedimentation rate study for the RI work. And then what we do is we go out and monitor regularly and just confirm that's continuing to happen. So there's a lot of data and information about that, but it's not on the order of inches or feet per year.
And there's a
But centimeters per year over time is still significant.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a pretty good feeling that that's an adequate cap
Yep, that's right.
per se.
Yeah.
Keep.
Yeah.
Brian, one other question.
Okay, I'll get to your question next, Commissioner Briscoe. The monitoring that we do, not only the sampling for the RI, but the ongoing monitoring really shows that it consists of sampling the depth, the surface, as well as the crab that live on the surface, and even doing studies where we've put clams and other organisms in the sediment and then testing them. So it really shows to be working well. Sorry, Commissioner Briscoe, what was your question?
In our discussions over the past years about mercury, correct me if I'm wrong, but it tends to go down. It tends to kind of burrow, so to speak, in the ground. Is that not correct?
Yeah, it depends on the type and the setting. This is really elemental mercury does, because it's heavier than rock. It wants to sink, and it's liquid. This is mercury that's bound to the sediment, and it's at really low concentrations. It was kind of in the dissolve phase, and then it got bound up to the sediment. So it's a little different, but you're right. The elemental mercury does act that way.
Okay, so as the sediment builds on top of it, it can even go deeper on its own, on moving, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's actively being buried as well, so that's helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just a little bit of history here. So in 2007, the port, the city, Department of Natural Resources, and a private company called Meridian Pacific entered into a consent decree with Department of Ecology. We were underway with the design of that work, and some regulatory changes occurred, and we were no longer able to take the dredge sediment for open water disposal, which increased our costs dramatically, and we looked at splitting this project up into two phases. So in 2011, we did an amendment to the consent decree, broke the project up into phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was completed in 2016, then now we're underway with the initial designs of phase 2. If you recall, back in the beginning of 2019, the commission gave the staff direction based on our initial kind of internal staff work group to pursue an option where we could look at using the ASB for a partial disposal facility in a different configuration than what the current plan was. And so since then, we've been working with our design team as well as coordinating with the Department of Ecology and other project partners to keep them in the loop on where we're going. And then tonight, what I'm hoping to do is get some direction and confirmation that we want to continue this and then really lean into the detailed engineering and permitting work. And so phase one, like I said, was completed in 2016. These are the areas of the inner waterway that we focused on. We dredged over 100,000 cubic yards of contaminated sediment out for upland disposal. We capped about 18 acres. We restored over a half a mile of shoreline, and we removed a number of creosote-treated structures and timbers and overwater docks, and then also cleaned up the shoreline and removed debris and contaminated soil from the shoreline in a number of places. So a lot of work was done there. You've seen these photos before. And really just to kind of give you the scale of what it was, you know, at the time that was about a $36 million construction project, and was, I think at the time, the largest, maybe still is the largest capital project the port's ever undertaken. And just for context, and the reason we're talking about this in phase two is the bigger of the two phases, and that it's bigger in scope and scale, and then of course in cost. So we want to be really conscious of how we approach that. The current approach includes, that's defined in the consent decree, that was when we broke these up into two phases. The current approach includes dredging and capping the remaining cleanup areas out in front of the Bellingham Shipping Terminal, in the inner waterway, as well as in the federal channel. It repurposed the ASB into a confined disposal facility, or CDF, where the soft sediments that had been accumulated in the ASB from Georgia Pacific's operations, as well as our use of it as a stormwater pond, would be removed and disposed of off-site. That was about 300,000 cubic yards worth of those sediments alone, which is 3 times what we did in all of phase one. That would then be dredged deeper, and this dredged sediments from the outer waterway and the other portions of the water would be placed into that confined disposal facility. That would be capped underwater in a subaquatic setting, so it would be, and then the marina would be built on top of that. That time, the land use assumed that the former ASB would be repurposed to a marina. And then, based on our feedback from the commission and then our internal staff work, you know, we came up with a discussion with the commission that really recognized that this was not necessarily compatible with a wider range of marine trades uses in that area for both the upland and the in-water. So we wanted to take another look if there's another way to approach it. And so that's where we are today. So we hired Anchor QEA and their sub-consultants, which had a variety of different engineering expertise. Primary one for this exercise was the structural engineers. And they did some updated surveys. We got all new bathymetry for the inner waterway, the outer waterway, and in and around the ASB. They used new environmental data from about 3 years worth of monitoring, as well as additional existing information prior to implementation of phase one. We reviewed geotechnical and structural reviews of things that we already have. And then they performed this value engineering exercise. It was a little unique than your typical standalone value engineering analysis, but we really tried to get them to look at the engineering components. We as staff could say, here's what we think, but we wanted them to look at costs and look at some of the other elements. But the assumptions that they did was looking at the current and future uses, with the guidance to look for improved flexibility for marine trades, and then also looking in the waterway and the navigational patterns and uses that we have in there, and while ensuring that this would be something that could pass muster with the Department of Ecology and our environmental requirements, then looking at constructability and cost effectiveness while looking at maintaining sustainability and habitat benefits. So that was the analysis that they went through. And really, just to jump right to the punchline, this is the proposed modified cleanup for phase two. It's really not that much different, and I'll walk through these colors for you here. It's not much different what we'd already anticipated. It includes dredging in front of the BST and the berth 2, as well as the rest of the outer waterway, which is highlighted in orange there. It was dredging and capping on the inner waterway in purple, as well as then dredging out in front of the rail span at the south of the shipping terminal. And then dredging and removal of an access channel shown in green there to the ASB through the breakwater to an aquatic environment. The big change is that rather than removing all of those 300,000 cubic yards of soft sediments in the ASB and disposing of them offsite, it's consolidating them behind a retaining structure, a wall or a berm, consolidating those on one side, and then taking all the rest of that dredge material and putting it behind the wall as well, rather than digging a deeper basin and putting that CDF into the aquatic environment. It's creating a nearshore or adjacent upland CDF behind a retaining structure.
And is that, that the area to the right of the inner waterway?
That's correct, yeah. So we've got the ASB kind of shown as bifurcated here with aquatic area, which would be just dredged down to about -28, and all of that material removed and placed on the other side of the wall in this reconfigured CDF area. And then all of this dredged material would also be placed into this reconfigured CDF.
Envision any other material going into that?
Yeah, that's the great question. So what we've shown here, and this is where we have a little bit of uncertainty, but what we wanted to demonstrate was this kind of gray hatched circular pattern that goes up and down. That is the assumed location that we know could handle the dredge volumes that we have. We kind of show a bubbled portion of it further out, and that means that we can adjust that to accommodate more capacity if we choose to. So things like the marina, if that lines up with the timing, there could be other MODCA cleanup projects that could have some cost savings if we did that. But that could be a decision we could make down the road. It does have the capacity. What it ultimately does is it shrinks the water space that we have available. So it's kind of a balancing act, and we'll be looking at that as we go. This approach for us.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
Do you have an acreage estimate for what is the acreage in the ASB that would be dredged and the acreage of fill land that would be created?
Yeah, we do. I think in the slide, one of the next slides, I have one of those. And I don't remember if that shows both of the, or if it shows just the aquatic side. I can get those to you though. We'll nail it down a little bit. But like it said, it kind of varies depending on where you put that wall. So depending on
Sure.
how much capacity you need. So it could change. But I can get you those.
Yeah, it would be useful to have a baseline of just with the fill there that we have to take care of.
Right.
How much acreage is required, and then what is our option in case we have additional acreage that we're going to try and bring in from the marina or somewhere else.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll get that for you. And like I said, I know we have it. I just don't know if I have it in one of these slides. This approach for us from staff level had a number of advantages, and I'll walk through a few of them in a little more detail here in a minute. But one of them was that it was removing that confined aquatic or confined disposal facility from the aquatic environment and putting it into the nearshore and the upland, which has a little bit more protectiveness. The other approach is still protective, but this is kind of an extra layer on top of that. This also creates a greater depth in the basin that we're creating. We can accommodate larger size vessels that by burying the CDF below the marina, we had a limited water depth of about 14 feet. This design could accommodate up to about 28 feet, which could take much larger vessels and bring in like FOSS tugs or barges, other types of marine trades operations. It could also accommodate a marina. It provides just a lot more flexibility from that perspective. And then also, as you see when you get to the end, it is a significant cost savings because we don't have to take those 300,000 cubic yards of sediment and dispose of them at a landfill.
And Brian, another question here. Does this plan envision keeping the existing breakwater largely intact?
That's correct. Yeah, it does. It includes where the green, and we'll show you some figures here that kind of some renderings and illustrations, that there would be some kind of opening on this side in the inner waterway where the green area is, and then also a fish passage structure that would allow some habitat to be created on the interior of this and there's a nice eelgrass bed on the other side of the ASB, and then just allow for fish passage in and around and through that area.
It also envisions some infrastructure in the reconfigured area, the CDF area.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't just be just a solid concrete wall, that
No.
there might be some
Yeah, that's right.
Infrastructure
There,
put in.
definitely, and that's, we haven't taken that into that what the infrastructure needs into account for that. But what the other advantage of this one is, and this is where I'm going to get out of my comfort zone, and so the structural engineers came up with a really interesting solution for that wall. And we have a variety of options we could do. We could do an earthen berm and retain the material behind that, but it has a lot of constructability issues. That's the kind of at the first glance, you'd think that would be the most inexpensive approach because it's just an earthen berm. But because there's all those soft sediments underneath there, you'd have to move those out of the way in order to get a good structural components built. And so how that was going to happen became really challenging. But rather than do that, actually, this way they are showing these little circles is that there are these circular cofferdams that all link together, and you could install these sheet pile circular cofferdams and then excavate out that material, backfill it with clean material. Then you have a structural wall already in place, and then you could take that material on the water side and move it over on the other side right there. Then when you have a finished product, what you actually have already is a vertical facing wall there that would be immediately usable for berthing against or other marine trades types of uses. Whereas if we had an earthen berm, we'd actually have to build those piers and docks and structures. So this has a really good advantage that way as well. So,
And
go ahead.
Brian, one more question here. Is that green area if you're considering being able to bring in a ship, a tug or something, is that green area the access point that a ship would use?
Yeah, that's right. And then we have shown that dredged a little bit differently because we anticipate that's got to be deeper than the purple section right next to it. And we had a number of we worked with our marine terminal folks to see what kind of vessels they anticipated could, use this. And it wasn't anticipating that we're going to have like the horizon line type of ocean going vessels that could go in here, but this could get some good sized tugs that are pulling barges, or shipyards that are doing work like AAM, or other shipyards down in Seattle that have large fishing vessels or other things like that. So we have a greater depth than what we do on the inner waterway.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on this figure before we move on? Okay. So what I want to do, these next few slides kind of show for scale. They're kind of cut and pasty. That's kind of intentional. We didn't want to overdo it. But what we tried to do is just to give, and these are based on satellite photos that are to scale. And this figure here shows if we took our entire Squalicum Harbor commercial fishing fleet, and including in the inner harbor and the outer harbor, and reconfigured it a little bit, it could fit the whole commercial fishing fleet in that water basin. And then it also fits our 4 web houses in the upland and still has a lot of room to spare, shown on the right-hand side there. So sometimes the scale of this, when you see these maps, doesn't really do it justice, but it's a very, very large area. And for another example, this is the one that the team from Anchor pulled together. This is a dry stack storage that's in Tacoma called Foss Landing. It's a 200-boat dry stack facility, along with some in-water moorage where they can drop vessels into there. And you can see that's a huge structure, and you could have 3 of them there lining that waterway. So again, a lot of room to work with as we move this forward. And then lastly, for scale, which is kind of odd to show, but just because it's right in our backyard, is literally you could fit the whole Bellwether Peninsula. You take out the entryway from the Coast Guard on down, but you could fit the whole Bellwether Peninsula into that area, and which is a big chunk of space.
So there's, on the Bellwether Peninsula, there's 6 office buildings and a hotel.
Right.
Yeah.
And
5 office buildings, an apartment, a hotel, and 2 standalone. Well, in this picture, you got 1 standalone restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a significant amount of space. So you're
Right.
talking about 100,000 square feet of commercial space there.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you have marina space there too. I mean, there's. So none of these are suggested this is exactly what we would do, but I wanted to give the context that there's a lot of space for us to work with. And then lastly, Anchor did prepare kind of a rendering, that does show again like how this could be utilized. To have the opening on one side, you have a trail and habitat on the berm. And then you still have tugs that could come and go against this vertical faced retaining structure, and then a lot of land to work with. So the evaluation, we just want to make sure you're aware of kind of where we're at and kind of what was leading some of these. We want to kind of compare side to side if we step with the original design or our proposed reconfigured approach. They both meet the MODCA requirements. They both meet our operational needs in the waterway because there's no change in the waterway or the Bellingham shipping terminal. But they don't necessarily both maximize our flexibility for the use in the ASB or the marine trades area. The current approach has limited depth in some areas or for some uses, and it limits our potential to expand the marine trades areas versus the other one, which does not have depth constraints for most vessels, and it does provide us a lot more flexibility for our land use decisions. They both provide opportunities for aquatic habitat as well as public access along the shoreline. But of course, the big one is the cost savings. You know, we had our team update all of the cost assumptions based on their recent experience on landfill disposal costs, constructability issues, their design and engineering work that they've done on other similar projects, and with a 30% contingency in today's dollars, they've estimated that the current approach is over $100 million. Whereas the modified approach is in the order of $63 million. So that alone pushes us to say this is something that has a significant cost savings that we should be looking at pursuing. And then a few other considerations, of course, is that there's additional uses and it provides that flexibility. So, any questions on those so far? Got a few more slides. So with that in mind, I mean, our staff's assumption and recommendation is that we continue to pursue that and start now working with the Department of Ecology and some external stakeholder engagement on that. Well, I just wanted to show that we've been working with a member of the Anchor team, includes a community engagement folks, and we've started the development of a community and stakeholder outreach plan. And so we anticipate a lot of work here that's going to be from both the cleanup side as well as the land use side, which I think is going to generate a lot more discussions. But we're really trying to think about this. We're trying to identify some key messages, anticipate what questions might come out of that, develop a project timeline, identify our key stakeholders or even our universe of stakeholders that we really want to try to engage in, and then develop some materials, other activities like charrettes and open houses. Once we've gotten through this social distancing issue, we can have some things like that, and really trying to start to engage that discussion. So clearly this is a photo that we wouldn't see today, but maybe in a few months we could actually get back together and have some thoughtful design charrettes.
A lot of people touching their mouths in that video.
I just saw that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think 4 out of the 5 are. And then also some other opportunities for like examples of educational outreach and signage. This is one where clearly a great spot for putting signage would be on that new central pier for Waypoint Park. And the example on the right is where Terminal 117 in Seattle, Port of Seattle, and City of Seattle have some educational outreach just along a trail. We could easily put that kind of stuff up there and just to get the word out of what we're doing and how we can keep people engaged. And, just to initially think about what this might look like, we anticipate long-term kind of early engagement and ongoing at multiple stages. It's just kind of to show that we're thinking about that as well. So with that, the next steps would be to finalize the actual design and evaluation memo that Anchor has put together that takes this work and actually puts it into a report that has more backup to it with cost estimates and evaluation criteria and that sort of thing. Unless there's any commission direction or change in direction, we would finalize that memo here very shortly. Then we'd initiate some pre-design investigations. We have some sampling that we have to do regardless of which direction we go. So we're going to initiate that, and we'll be bringing a PSA amendment to the commission here shortly to start that work. We'll work directly with Ecology and the AG's office on amending the consent decree, as well as then initiating our land use programming. So I think those will be 2 things that are going along in parallel: the land use programming and the cleanup design changes. Then we hope that we could get under design and permitting in 2021 and 22. with a goal of starting construction in 2023. It's a pretty aggressive approach, but we think we can do that if we keep the momentum, and we think that we'll need 2 to 3 actually construction seasons to complete this work. It's a much larger scale. We barely got phase 1 under the wire of a single construction season, and this is 3 times that. So.
Hey, Brian, do you have construction seasons as long as it's cordoned off from the rest of the waterway?
Yeah, we don't. In the ASB, we would be able to work outside the fish window, but the rest of the dredging work, even that dredging work is double what phase 1 was. So that once we're outside of that and we're dredging by the BSD, then we're in the fish windows.
Okay.
So, but we this is early. We could look at ways to try to, we thought the Harris Avenue Shipyard was going to take 2 construction seasons. IMCO got it done in 1. I mean, they said we're going to put way more manpower on this than we had thought they would, and got it done in 1 year. So,
I have a question, Brian.
yeah.
So, with that said about the dredging during the fish windows, what have you, we could use the dredge time inside the ASB plan when we deepen that side. Do that when we can't work outside.
Right.
That would make it faster.
Yeah, that's right. We, some of the stuff, and there's a sequencing issue though too. There's the, and we haven't worked through all this. This is some of the investigation work we have to do. The reason that we want to consolidate all that soft sediment in the deepest part of the ASB because of the geotechnical considerations. So we want to make sure that we'll have to be thinking about the sequencing of the material as well as the dredging material that we're placing in the ASB. So there'll probably be some work that could be done outside of the fish window because the ASB is closed off, but there'll be an order and a rationale for why we sequence things in a certain way, both chemically and geotechnically. And that has yet to be really worked through completely.
And once that sediment's in, if this was to happen, once that sediment's in the dry land side of the ASB, so to speak, how long is that going to have to sit before we can do anything with the ground?
Yeah, that's one of the big questions, and this is next phase of work is actually going to go and sample some of the sediment in the ASB and do some geotechnical work on that to see what kind of water retention that has, how long, what the geotechnical properties are. It could easily be, there's ways you could address that. You could amend it and dry it out faster, but that's expensive. You could, I think that the fact that we have about 17 to 20 acres worth of property, you could probably maybe focus on certain areas you wanted to maybe expedite. Those are all great questions that we're going to be working through with the design team, in the next few iterations of this, but it could be anywhere on the order of a couple of years that would have to sit, or we could aggressively approach it in certain areas and make that a little faster.
Thank you.
So with that, any other questions?
Brian, as I understand it, this does not fall into our implementation agreement number 1 with the Lummi Nation. Is that correct?
Yeah, the cleanup projects are not covered as part of that. The cleanup project itself and any new redevelopment project as well.
Okay. So I want to just make sure that we get this project on the radar for our tribal partners so that they know what is coming and what we're considering, and that they're able to make sure they're here as a more than just a stakeholder. They're a real partner in this project moving forward, because I think we all know this project can't move forward without a good partnership there and an ability to find some mutual strategic interests that align with both our needs and what the tribe is looking for this to be successful. And I really want to make sure we get that done before we get this cart moving any further.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I have reached out to them on this already individually. I also provided for context the direction the commission had given. I think I provided the links to the presentations in the past that we've given where we got this initial direction to pursue this. And we have been working with the Department of Ecology to coordinate a outreach and not really just even a meeting, but really a session to discuss this, because I would like to have ecology in the room as well, given that it's also a state cleanup project which drives some of the requirements that we have here. So we're definitely thinking about that, and I would agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. Well, please I would certainly like to be kept up to date of how that is moving along and how we're getting towards that meeting happening.
Okay.
But I love the idea here. It's great. We accomplished Bobby's interest in getting more land into the port here, and this is a phenomenal opportunity for us to have a space that we're able to have activated for jobs and economic revenue for the port. It's not often we get a chance like this on waterfront territory. It's almost never. And so it's a really exciting opportunity, and the fact that it's also coming in at half the cost of the other option is quite exciting. So thank you for the work. I think the consultant has done a really nice job putting this into some good perspective that's digestible. And when we do roll this out to the public, we're already quite far along the way into making this understandable and a project people will be able to really think about and give input on.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll keep this going. And when we actually get the design memo, we'll make sure we forward all that to the commissioner as well, so you can see the whole nuts and bolts of it if you're interested as well.
And mine's a question you can answer later, but I just want to get it on the record. You're never going to build a breakwater like this again, right? So what is the highest and best use for a breakwater of this kind? Mm-hmm. And I don't expect you to have the answer, but if you were to, if the world was your oyster, what would you put inside a breakwater like this? Because you can't ever build one like this again. It would be a tremendous disservice to put a lesser use in there than what we could.
Yeah.
What we could.
That's what I think.
It's an amazing asset.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what's been interesting is that's why we showed that figure basically as a blank slate. We wanted to show those examples as scale to show like what you could put there. But then that rendering really was just to say it really is a blank slate at this point. And there's a variety of users. And what we want to use this next, that's why we want to advance the cleanup while having a really good, robust discussion about the land use programming. And then do we as a port decide, hey, we're gonna market this as XYZ, or are we just gonna wait, say, hey, we're open for business, come with us with your proposals, or are we gonna program it? And so that's a discussion that we definitely are gonna ramp up here in the near future.
Yeah, sorry about this, Don, but hey, Don, what would you put there? I just let that hang.
And Don Goldberg? Yeah,
Don's out there.
He is on our staff team on this as well. So he's thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to get off of mute. Sorry. I think I hate to say it, we're going to be evaluating everything after the COVID-19. So what we might have done 2 months ago is going to be very different than what we might be doing in the future as we analyze the effects on our economy.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but you're right.
I'd hate to plan on what we were before when we really don't know what to be.
You faded out there at the end. I think you said we don't know what we don't know.
You're at your best when you're kind of fading off.
It's a dramatic exit.
You want to come back at us, Don?
Don, you there?
Okay, never mind.
All right, commissioners. Well, that's what we had. So we'll unless I hear otherwise, we'll proceed with taking this to the next level, and we'll be coming back regularly with updates and keeping everybody informed. And I'll go back and get you some of that information. I think I did take out that slide that had the acreage. But I'll make a note and get that to you. All right. Thanks, commissioners. Take my Clorox wipes.
Commissioner Shepard, I have no further comments.
Did we lose our teleconference? Wow.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Is anyone on the phone right now?
Zoom's gone.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah, we lost it. Wonder if they're still on it. Maybe we timed out.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as
I bet it timed out. I bet I had the meeting too short. I'll have to do that differently in the future.
Oh, we didn't, well. Set, Paul.
You're on mic.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID.
The phone connection there. So after Brian quit talking, we haven't heard a thing.
Oh, okay. Well, it was all brilliant. That I
I'm
was
sure.
saying,
I'm sure. I could see Don's lips moving.
I
and
got
couldn't-
it. I got it.
Okay.
I got it, Michael.
Well, I'll briefly recap. I said that since we've finished all of our regular business, we'll now move into other business. And I'm going to tee us off with an update on the countywide unified command incident response for the COVID-19 pandemic. I sat in on a meeting today that was hosted by the county executive and the Unified Command Response. The Unified Command Response is a multi-agency, multi-government participated organization that is taking the lead in response and messaging around the county's work and response to this pandemic. The big story is they're taking it really seriously. This is a coordinated approach and trying to ensure that we have as few challenges with who's doing what and replication of work as possible. They're planning for the long term, at least 3 months and likely more in terms of a response. This is not something that's probably going to resolve itself quickly, and we can certainly see the economic impacts are going to take a amazing amount of time to recover from. A couple of things that they wanted to communicate out of that meeting is if private businesses, nonprofits, or others are interested in participating and providing assistance for the response, work through the county executive's office to identify how you can help. They identified that all levels of government may be asked to provide staffing reassignments. We're all altering how we work, and there may be need for staffing reassignments to support the work of the emergency management team. There was some good praise for the port's emergency response team led by Scott McCready, who's a new employee to us but has a lot of experience and was highlighted for his positive effort and the experience that he's brought. There was a request for Don Goldberg and his team to partner with the SBDC to host a meeting that focuses on those economic impacts and what are the support opportunities and services that we have, particularly for our small business community. And so I will turn it over to Don for a little bit of his input to hear how he and some of his other partners are working to support our small businesses during this challenging time. And finally, their message was, don't panic, we're planning, make sure you're planning, stop hoarding, and support each other. We're all got to get through this together, and it's going to be easier if we make sure we're focusing on how we can work together. So if anyone has any questions or thoughts that the unified command structure can help address. We have a liaison between this policy committee and that organization, and Sat Paul's office has taken a lot of the lead on that coordination. Okay. Dawn, if you want to chime in, I'd love to hear some of what you've been working on and some of your thoughts here.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. So to clarify, correct, Scott has been given one of the incident command roles, and I have been given the title of economic branch chief. And what that means is that all economic messaging, both internally and externally, will go through our group at REP and myself. We have many different organizations within the county that are trying to do good work, but one of the problems we're having is everybody is acting independently with similar messages, sometimes different messages, and there hasn't been a central point of command. I'm learning a lot about the incident command structure. It very much follows the military, so everything goes up and back down the chain. I will be sending the commission as well as Rob and the directors later on tonight a message that was approved by the Command Central that we wrote that's going out to all our partner organizations, explaining our role, explaining the procedures, and the process that we're going to be moving to. My team is now working remotely. We meet via Zoom every morning and afternoon. Team Whatcom is now meeting weekly on Fridays, and I'm going to make that twice a week. And then I've given the command a breakdown of what we expect the phases of recovery will be. The first phase will be basically what I just mentioned, organizing the structure, getting all of consistent messaging, dividing up responsibilities both internally for our team as well as external partners. Then we'll go into a phase 2 with support from the electeds, creating structure, finding money, putting policies in place. And then the phase 3 will be the recovery, which as Commissioner Shepard mentioned, right now, if things go very smoothly, we're in a 3-month phase, which is interesting because everybody's heard about flattening the curve. If the curve spikes, this could be shorter, but much, much more devastating. They announced this morning that the Whatcom County Health Department is already overloaded and we have very few cases. So it's starting to build. And so we're really trying to figure out how do we make this a longer, flatter curve so that we don't have overwhelm our health system. So right now I am on a 9 o'clock call with the command center every morning. And we're working through the process. It's a process that none of us have gone through. I have to give John Gargett an amazing support. He is so solid. He is together. He has really done a great job, an amazing asset for our county.
So
Great, thank you, Don. Don, do you have any thoughts on ways that we should be mobilizing our EDI fund at this point? One of the things that came out of the meeting this morning was a potential ask that would be coming around to individual cities and other government agencies to help fund the operations of this unified command network. The county's already put in money, and everyone's going to be taking an economic hit here. We do have a fund. It certainly wasn't initially intended for disaster relief of this type or emergency operations, but that EDI fund does exist and could be considered for use in addressing this particular crisis and the economic rebuild that has to happen after.
Yeah, again, all of this is so unprecedented. We hate to use long-term funding all up today, but if tomorrow doesn't come, that doesn't do us any good to save that funding. So there's a lot of different thoughts on EDI funding always, and especially now. Some people have brought up whether EDI funding should be allowed to make small grants to all the individual people that are suffering from small businesses. Of course, that doesn't meet the requirement of being public infrastructure. So there would have to be a change to the actual state law associated with that. So I think it's a little early right now. We're really in the infancy of organization and structure before we really start to analyze what we can do. I would personally be a supporter of, we need to keep that command center open. There are a lot of people working very hard, and if it's short on funding, we need to fund it, no matter how that happens.
Well, we also don't know where the feds are going to come down, where the state's going to come down, where other monies are going to come into the system. So to start to earmark or to start to look at specific funds that we have designated elsewhere, I think we probably need to take a step back and wait until we see what other organizations are going to be contributing to this.
I agree. And one way of doing that would be to potentially, instead of doing a grant, do a loan with a payback as monies come in from other agencies, if we needed to have some kind of emergency relief for funding it. But I think as I said before, we're so early in that making too many decisions right now without knowing what the data is and what's coming would be a little premature.
I agree with Commissioner Bell that I don't think we want to start earmarking monies, because when people start hearing you're earmarking monies and they'll expect you to use that before there's any contributions from elsewhere. That money was designed for other things. I understand where we're at in this, but I think we need to see what's going to roll down from the federal level as well as the state level. And I don't think we should be taking money earmarked for other things at this point in time until it's use it as a last resort would be my recommendation.
And there's within the group, within the task force there are people that are working with private sector. Some private sector companies are already offering to put substantial financial assets in. So this is going to take everybody.
Yeah, Phillips 66 already contributed $20,000 to the command center, and they did that right away. And I think for me, because the port's going to be taking a hit on our financial revenue, and so if we're asked to fund the operation of this emergency response center, it's going to be another burden on an already burdened organization to support more financially. And I think the small cities are going to be in the same situation. And so hopefully we're able to think creatively about how to keep this important response system in place and staffed and mobilized to do the work we need it to without doubling the impact on the levels of local government already.
Yeah, we have an incident command center and people that are organizing this that I'm guessing is as good or better than anywhere in the state. I think we're all been a little flat-footed, but I would guess that we're way at the top of how this whole thing is rolling out right now.
So I would ask this question. I have a question about the monies for this. When we talk about needing monies to operate this, is it salaries for the people that are there, or is it, what are we speaking to?
I personally haven't been involved with any of those conversations, but I'm guessing Commissioner, that it has to do with food, all the costs associated with having 50 people in that facility all day.
Okay. Because it helps when things are defined as to what the money is for people to make choices of where it comes from.
Yeah, they didn't give us a breakdown of what all the money was for, but there's a lot of people being staffed there, and the county council just appropriated $250,000 to help the initial bit of time to keep that up and running. So, but they did say expect other groups in the county to be asked to contribute.
The command center could easily be open for 6 months. I think they're trying to get ahead of it.
Okay, well, thank you, Don. And if you can think about ways that you, and I know that SBDC is a great partner on this, to think about ways that we can have opportunities for the small business community to understand what options are there for them, and what services may be in place, if that's a workshop or a meeting or some sort of hosted event. I think there would be a lot of interest in seeing something of that nature.
So for clarification, so part of the assignments that are going out to everybody, our primary partner is SBDC. I probably have had 20 emails with CJ and 10 conversations today. So they will be the primary entity that does SBA lending and helping small businesses along with the chambers. And we'll be organizing all of the different structure and then working directly with state commerce, with the county sheriff's health department, and all the other large scale, as well as our big business partners.
Okay, sounds good. All right, does anyone have any other questions for Don or any other discussion on this topic? Okay, that's all the other business I had. Commissioner Bell, do you have any other business?
Yeah, I just wanted to, say thank you to Don Goldberg for being the only person on St. Patrick's Day to wear green. You are to be recognized for that. And I just want to know when I can get a haircut.
It'll be a while for the haircut, and I don't want to tell you, but I have green everywhere right now.
I know. Thank you.
So nice job on that. I didn't even realize it was St. Patrick's Day.
So
Gwen will cut your hair. Just stop by after work.
My admiration, Don. Thank you so much. And then when you can give me the haircut ideas, let me know. And quite frankly, I don't want my hair to look like Rob's. So.
Gwen may be watching, you know.
I can give you an idea, Ken. You just go to the Rite Aid or something, and you grab yourself one of those cutting kits, and you give it to your wife.
You know, I'm looking at a lot of people here with no hair telling me how to get my hair cut. I just want to say, happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Thank you.
Hey, Don, just a housekeeping item. Sorry, go ahead.
Commissioner Briscoe, did you have any other business?
Yes, I do. One thing that I spoke briefly with Rob about this, and I thought we should discuss it this evening, is emergency meetings. We got a protocol, 24 hours notice with what's going on here. I'm wondering if we shouldn't set a schedule. We can cancel the meetings, but we have to give some notice, and if something comes up and things need to be talked about, anything to do with port business, I think we may need to talk about putting something in place. The other thing was, and I spoke with Rob briefly about this as well, is official cards, so to speak, for us, identification cards of who we are and what if worst case scenario, we're required not to move about, we're going to have some means if we have to move about for government port business, so to speak, to show that that's who we really are. So thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Yeah, look, I think it's up to Rob to decide if we've got enough important stuff on our plate to have that meeting and whether or not we should call it off. So I'm going to defer.
So if we were to block our calendars for the 31st for same time, 4 o'clock, and then I'll let you know next week if we need that time, is that sufficient?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Yeah, that should be fine for me as well.
Okay, so we'll get back to you as to whether that'll be necessary or not, but let's count on it for now. And then the 2 weeks after the 31st is the 14th, so we'll see if we need another one in there. But for now, let's just count on the 31st.
Okay, and Rob, did you have question for Don?
I did. This is more just total housekeeping. Are you talking on your telephone, Don, or on your computer?
I'm working on my work computer.
And are you getting any kind of ringing?
I am.
Yeah, that's why we think we need to use the telephone. We can't seem to get the computer audio to not have the ringing. I was hoping you were going to say no. There's no ringing.
It was really loud during the break when it was silent. I actually was looking around the house to see if there was an alarm going off. Yeah, there's definitely, when we're talking, it goes away, and then when there's silence, it comes back.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll try and pin that down and do a little more homework on that one and get this to work a little more seamlessly.
Great.
Okay, well, that sounds like everything.
Well, the
Again,
question still remains about identification.
We don't have an answer for you on that, Bobby. I think it's just way too early. First of all, we're not locked down yet. The emergency command folks are just trying to get everything set up, and figure out what they're doing next. But no one has an answer to that question. I'm aware of the need, so we'll be advocating for you to get some sort of work passes along with myself and some other essential people at the port.
Okay, very good. I was just curious. Thank you. That's all I have, Michael.
okay, thank you guys. Thank you again to staff for getting this mobile meeting capacity up and running in short order. I appreciate it, and I think it's something that will be good to have for other meetings and potential other needs. So good work, and we are adjourned.